ain't ya. Phone ain't ya. Niggas ain't ya. Jury ain't ya. Judge ain't ya. Phone ain't ya. Niggas ain't ya. Jury ain't ya.
This is Zakoya Johnson Eckles, a devoted mother of two and a compassionate nurse who thought she had everything to live for: a family, a career, a future. But on the morning of October 26, 2024, that future would be killed by her own husband after he found a video of her dancing with another man. At around 10 a.m., on a quiet Saturday morning when Hattiesburg police would respond to a call about a car crash on Park Place Avenue, the scene was typical: an accident, perhaps a reckless driver. But what they found was anything but ordinary. A dashcam from a nearby hardware store captured the chilling moments before first responders arrived. A silver sedan, out of control, veered wildly across the road, crashing through an iron fence before slamming into a brick outbuilding. What the officers didn't yet know was that behind the wheel was Zakoya, and she wasn't the victim of an accident at all. Minutes earlier, Zakoya had been shot multiple times, the bullets striking her just before she had attempted to drive herself to the hospital. But she never made it. Instead, she died alone in the driver's seat of that crumpled car. But this was only the beginning of a horrifying investigation. But before that, let me take you back to how it all began. This is the tragic life and death of Zakoya Eckles.
Extremely proud of her. That even in her last moments, she was strong.
Born Zakoya Johnson Eckles, known as Zoya, she was raised in the small town of Foxworth, Mississippi, where everyone knew each other's family history. Zoya's upbringing in such a community shaped her caring and compassionate nature. A graduate of West Marion High School in 2006, Zoya was always the type to put others before herself, earning the love and respect of her peers and community. Even in her teenage years, she was known for her selflessness. She volunteered at blood drives, staying late to clean up after school events, and making everyone around her feel welcome with her infectious smile and warm, joyful personality. By her early 30s, Zoya had become a dedicated licensed practical nurse, working long, grueling double shifts to provide for her two young children, a boy and a girl. Despite her demanding job, she made sure to attend every school function, every recital, and every dance class. Her kids were her world, and their bond was evident to anyone who knew them. A fragment of a birthday post shared by her teenage daughter showed the deep connection between them, a bond that was solidified by Zoya's constant support and nurturing care. Her life as a mother went beyond providing for her children's material needs. She was fiercely protective of them, always going the extra mile to ensure they were safe, happy, and well cared for. However, while she worked to safeguard their future, she failed to protect herself from the very person she had entrusted to protect her. Zoya worked tirelessly to fund her children's dance lessons, school supplies, and family vacations, putting her personal desires aside to prioritize their well-being. Through all the ups and downs, Zoya's love for her children never wavered. She was the rock of her family, always making time for them despite the overwhelming demands of her nursing career. Zoya's world revolved around her family, and her children idolized her. That was until her path would cross with a man who would change the course of her life in ways she never imagined. Zoya's love story, with Kenrod Cartez Eckles, a man 14 years her senior, began with what seemed like a fairy tale romance. They married after a brief courtship, and at first, Kenrod appeared to be the supportive, loving husband Zoya had always dreamed of. Their social media was filled with images of a seemingly perfect couple: matching shirts and beach photos, smiles shared on cruises, and a proposal that looked straight out of a romantic movie. These pictures gave the world the impression of a happy, secure relationship, one that many would envy. But behind the filter of those perfect posts, not all that glitters is gold. Kenrod's behavior gradually began to shift. The charming, loving husband became a possessive, controlling figure, and Zoya's once joyful life began to unravel. His jealousy, which had been subtle at first, started to intensify, making her feel isolated from friends and family. He would monitor her every move, question her interactions with others, and control who she spent time with. He was a jealous man, and that jealousy would lead to a dark repercussion for Zoya. The tension and toxicity in the relationship would eventually lead to a tragic and irreversible outcome. On the morning of October 26, 2024, Zoya's life would be forever changed by a single moment of jealousy and violence. It all started when she shared a light-hearted dance with an old classmate at a lounge off US Highway 98, a seemingly innocent act that would unknowingly lead to her tragic fate. The 13-second Facebook Live video showed Zoya laughing and doing a playful two-step dance. The dance wasn't inappropriate, Zoya wasn't overly close to the man, but to her husband, it was enough to trigger a violent outburst. Kenrod, who had already been simmering with jealousy, saw the video and was consumed with rage. What seemed harmless to others quickly escalated into something far darker. Kenrod replayed the clip over and over again, allowing his jealousy to spiral until it consumed him entirely. To outsiders, it looked like an innocent interaction between friends, but to Kenrod, it felt like a personal betrayal. His mind raced, and soon he accused Zoya of infidelity, demanding to see her phone. When Zoya refused, their argument escalated quickly, and in a moment of blind anger, the situation turned deadly. Kenrod's fury reached a boiling point when Zoya refused to comply with his demands. The anger that had been building for days finally exploded, and in a shocking outburst, he shot his wife in the abdomen. The bullet entered Zoya's right abdomen, severing a major artery before exiting through her lower back. But Zoya, who was a fighter, wouldn't go down without a fight. In sheer survival mode, she staggered outside barefoot, clutching her car keys, hoping she could make it to safety. Despite the grave injury, her instinct to fight for her life kicked in, and she tried to save herself. In an attempt to escape, Zoya climbed into the driver's seat to get to the hospital. She started the engine and floored the accelerator towards Merit Health, just 6 blocks northeast. But it wouldn't be easy. The severity of her injuries, losing an immense amount of blood, likely blurred her vision and compromised her ability to drive. The car veered off course, drifting left, mounting the sidewalk and plowing through a fence. The airbags deployed, but the crash was secondary. By that point, Zoya was already slipping away, her body struggling to hold on as she tried to get to help. Zoya never made it to the hospital. Her desperate attempt to flee ended tragically when she lost control of her car, which mounted a sidewalk and crashed into a brick outbuilding. Authorities arrived on the scene to find her unresponsive, and despite their efforts, she was pronounced dead on the scene. Her attempt to escape, driven by her will to survive, ultimately became her final moments. The woman who had once protected everyone around her now lay lifeless, a tragic victim of the violence she never saw coming. At around 10 a.m., Hattiesburg police responded to a report of an accident on Park Place Avenue where an individual had wrecked into a building. Initially thought they were responding to a car accident. However, when paramedics arrived, they would be met with a heartbreaking scene. They found Zoya on the driver's seat, and that was when they noticed the bullet wound. They immediately shifted their focus to a potential shooting. The Hattiesburg Police Department quickly taped off the area, documenting the scene. Zoya's lifeless body was transported to the Mississippi State Crime Lab for further investigation. But this was only the beginning of a horrifying investigation.
While investigators were processing the scene, a phone call came in from Kenrod Eckles. In a calm and almost detached tone, he admitted to the shooting and agreed to meet police officers. Kenrod's confession seemed to lack the emotional remorse one might expect from someone who had just ended a life so violently, especially one that had been once filled with love and promises. Authorities located Kenrod in Columbia, Mississippi, and he was arrested without incident. Kenrod was charged with the first-degree murder of his wife, along with additional charges for evidence tampering and malicious mischief. The murder charges alone carried the weight of life imprisonment in Mississippi, and if convicted, Kenrod would likely spend the rest of his life in prison. His booking photos showed a heavy-set man with his eyes cast down, perhaps filled with regret or sorrow for what he had done. As he was booked into the Forest County Jail, Kenrod was charged with first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and malicious mischief. But what investigators discovered next would change everything.
Man has been arrested after admitting to his wife. Around 10 a.m. on October 26th, Hattiesburg police responded to a call in the 0 block of Park Place Avenue after a vehicle crashed into a building. And upon arrival, officers found the driver deceased with a gunshot wound to the chest. 50-year-old Kenrod Cortez Eckles contacted the authorities and admitted to the victim, who was his wife. Now, Eckles is now being charged with first-degree tampering with evidence and malicious mischief, and is being held in the Forest County Jail. Now, this is still an ongoing investigation.
Developing today, a Pine Belt man is in custody, charged in the death of his wife. Welcome in, I'm Keandra Malloy. We know now she was found with an apparent gun wound after her vehicle crashed into a building yesterday. Now take a look at your screen. This is 50-year-old Kenrod Eckles of Columbia. He has been charged with first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and malicious mischief. That's in connection to the death of 36-year-old Zakoya Johnson Eckles. The Hattiesburg Police Department says Kenrod and Zakoya were married. Lamar County Coroner confirmed Zakoya's identity last night and says her body is being sent to the Mississippi State Crime Lab in Biloxi. Now here's what we've learned so far about the This is the video of the scene on Park Place Avenue where HPD says officers responded to a report of a vehicle crashing into a building Saturday morning. Now, originally, Hattiesburg police said Zakoya was found unresponsive in her vehicle and pronounced on the scene. Today, HPD confirmed she was found unresponsive with an apparent gun wound to her abdomen. Authorities say Kenrod contacted them shortly after her body was found, admitting to his involvement in the Now, HPD says this is an ongoing investigation. The WDAM-7 is on your side with these developments in this case. We will bring you the latest news on air and online.
During investigation, police found out that Kenrod had actually staged the crash scene to make it appear as though Zoya's death was an accident. He manipulated the scene to cover up his violent actions, but the evidence, particularly the gunshot wound, made the truth inescapable. At his arraignment in Hattiesburg, the courtroom felt the weight of the accusations. The judge set Kenrod's bond at a steep $800,000, indicating the severity of the charges against him. His attorney entered a plea of not guilty on his behalf, though the core evidence, Kenrod's own admission of guilt, the forensic analysis of the crash site, and the police's thorough investigation painted a clear picture of the brutal crime.
50-year-old Kenrod Cortez Eckles had his bond set at $800,000 during his initial appearance in Hattiesburg Municipal Court today. He faces 3 charges: first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and malicious mischief. His wife, Zakoya Johnson Eckles, was found around 10 a.m. Saturday on Park Place Avenue. She was in a vehicle that had crashed into a building there.
The investigation into Zoya's tragic death moved quickly, but it was equally heartbreaking. The police learned that Kenrod had become increasingly controlling in the weeks leading up to the shooting. The couple's seemingly happy marriage had been deteriorating behind closed doors. Zoya had been the subject of Kenrod's jealousy, especially after a seemingly innocent Facebook Live video showed her dancing briefly with an old classmate at a local lounge. Kenrod, in his fragile emotional state, replayed the video over and over, his mind clouded with rage. The harmless two-step dance, something that was playful and casual in nature, had turned into the trigger that sparked his violent outburst. It was a moment that forever altered the course of their lives. In the days following the shooting, Zoya's family and the local community were left in shock and grief. Zoya's 2 children, who had idolized her and seen her as a pillar of support, were left without their mother. Detectives were now piecing together the evidence, as well as interviews with Zoya's friends and family members. The tragic outcome underscored the dangers of domestic violence and how even a small moment of jealousy can spiral into uncontrollable violence. As for Kenrod, the circumstances of the shooting, combined with his admission of guilt, seemed to guarantee a severe legal consequence. However, there were still questions about whether his actions were premeditated or a rash decision fueled by uncontrollable anger. The shock of Zoya's death sent ripples of grief through her family, friends, and the entire community. Hattiesburg, a tight-knit town, was rocked by the loss of such a kind and loving person. Zoya was known for her nurturing nature, not only as a mother, but also as a friend and neighbor. She had worked tirelessly as a nurse, often juggling double shifts to support her 2 children and ensure they had everything they needed. Zoya's warm smile and generous spirit made her a beloved figure in her small town. In the wake of her death, her family and the local community came together to mourn her loss. A homegoing service was held in Columbia, where dozens gathered to remember Zoya's bright personality and her impact on those around her. Her daughter, still in her teenage years, spoke emotionally about the bond they shared. Despite the grief that enveloped them, they remembered Zoya as a woman who always put others first. In the days following her death, candlelight vigils were held across the town, with gatherings at local churches offering a moment of reflection and support for those affected by the tragedy. The community did what they could to support Zoya's children, ensuring that they would continue to receive the care and love their mother had always provided. As the investigation continues and the legal proceedings unfold, Zoya's tragic death has become a poignant reminder of the devastating consequences of domestic violence. Zoya's story, like so many others, shows how deeply the scars of jealousy and control can run. While many knew her as a compassionate nurse and mother, the darkness of her home life remained hidden until it tragically exploded in violence. In the aftermath, advocates for domestic violence awareness have used this case to stress the importance of recognizing the signs of control, manipulation, and abuse in relationships. Jealousy and possessiveness, though often dismissed as signs of love in some relationships, can be incredibly dangerous. Experts warn that small signs of control or possessiveness, such as constantly checking a partner's phone or limiting their social interactions, should never be ignored. These red flags can escalate into violence, as Zoya's case sadly proves. Zoya's tragic death underscores the importance of early intervention in preventing domestic violence. Her children, who will grow up without their mother, are now left to navigate a world of grief and loss. The emotional and psychological impact of witnessing a parent's death, especially under these circumstances, is likely to be long-lasting. It is critical that these children receive the support and care they need to heal, as they move forward without the presence of the woman who was their world. It's also a stark reminder to everyone that life can change in an instant. A seemingly innocent moment, Zoya dancing at a lounge with an old friend, turned into a deadly encounter that cost her life. This is the unpredictable nature of life and the importance of being aware of the subtle shifts in relationships and behavior that could be signs of something much darker. Zoya's story may be over, but the conversation about domestic violence and its devastating effects continues. How do we prevent other stories like Zoya's from becoming a tragic reality? How can we recognize the signs before it's too late? Let this serve as a call to action. If you are in an abusive relationship or know someone who is, don't wait for things to escalate. Seek help. Your life and the lives of those around you depend on it. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.